Hi, I'm Stephen Lee. I'm the Chief Executive of CentreForum, the Liberal think tank. I think the principal legacy from this coalition is the fact that it has been seen to have worked. Many people at the outset thought it would never work, both those actually within the coalition and many outside of the coalition. I think the fact that it's endured now for nearly 4 years and looks like it will endure up to the next election is a huge testament to both parties in terms of their willingness to compromise, to hopefully do things for the national interest rather than the particular political party interest. I don't think there's a danger that the Liberal Democrats will be seen as being perpetually in coalition and not therefore leading. I think for the Liberal Democrats, actually, that's the aspiration. I think the real challenge and the real goal through the next 15 months is for the Liberal Democrats to still be in government after the next general election. I think if that's the case, we will have seen a much more robust negotiation around what the Liberal Democrat policies will be within any future coalition government. And actually, that will be a game changer. 10 years of effective coalition government shows that the Liberal Democrats can and do make a real active difference in political life. I think the Renard affair is a classic example of the Liberal Democrats trying to be incredibly liberal. When other parties are faced with some of these sorts of issues, they tend to take a much more robust approach. People are either retained or they're removed at a stroke. The immediate Liberal response is much more likely, and I think was in this case, how can we best help and support all the different parties faced with this difficult issue? The dilemma with that approach, however, is that you, if you're not careful, end up with a fudge. And I think that's where we've ended up. It's not a great place to be. I hope very much that the party will move forward, will draw an effective line as quickly as possible, and that we can get on with managing the economy, providing greater support to those people who are most in need, and not really focusing on ourselves, but on the job that needs to be done. I think whilst this coalition government has been very successful in many ways, there have, from a Liberal Democrat perspective, been some notable failures. The first amongst these is constitutional reform. It's clearly the case that there were huge aspirations within the Liberal Democrat Party when we came into coalition that some real movement might be made there, but we've seen precious little advance. Now that's not only important to every individual citizen in this country, but it's also important to growth. Finding growth within the regional, the local context is critically important to a fairer society, to a stronger economy for everyone as we go forward. So I think this will be a really important signature policy for the Liberal Democrats over the next 15 months. In terms of the economy more generally, I think that really it's business as usual. What we've seen is a rebalancing of the role of the state, the role of private sector within the economy, trying to fuel growth. We're seeing borrowing coming down, we're seeing positive increases in tax receipts into the economy. All of this is good. Of course, the Conservatives take the bulk of the reward for that. But much of that is about Liberal Democrat policies working really effectively in a coalition government. And whoever that coalition government might be as we go forward, and I think it will be a coalition government, it will be critically important that for the Liberal Democrats, it's very much business as usual. Well, as we build up to the general election, as the manifestos are beginning to take greater shape, our principal concern over the next 12 months or so is to help and support all the major political parties to have some really radical policy interventions. So we're working hard in the difficult areas of certainly the economy. We're looking at changes to tax reform. We're looking at changes to reform in corporate governance, both within the financial sector and more widely. We're focusing very much on social mobility, a very liberal perspective, actually enjoyed within all of the major political parties as an important concept driving our society forward. And we're also very concerned about individual liberty, not least as the state has seen to encroach more and more, and big business encroaches more and more on our daily lives. So these are areas where we're particularly focusing over the next 12 months or so. I think the next general election is really still much too difficult to call. an awful lot, I think, will depend on events between now and then. Will the economy continue to show signs of recovery? To what extent will the polarised position of the two major parties seek to dominate the discussion? Or will there be opportunities for the Liberal Democrats to take a much more central ground in a differentiated way? If the Liberals can do that, I think they stand a very good chance of being in government post-2015. I don't know whether it will be with Labour or whether it will be with the Conservatives. I hope very much that when we come to the negotiations around a possible coalition, that the Liberal Democrat voice is held very, very, very strongly, and that we achieve, as we have in this coalition, huge, important, radical, liberal changes in our society as we go forward. Who will win? My guess at the moment is a minority Labour government.